The great hall floated in space around a dead star. Inside the crystal walls, beings from 12 different worlds sat in a perfect circle. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like walking trees. But they all had one thing in common. They were smart, very smart, and they had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Today, they were talking about a small blue planet far from their home worlds. The planet was called Earth, and it was home to creatures called humans. "The humans are dangerous," said Counselor Vex. He was tall and thin with silver skin that shined like metal. His people had been watching Earth for 50 years. They fight each other all the time. They make weapons that can destroy whole cities. They poison their own air and water. The other council members nodded. They had seen the reports. Humans had fought 2 massive wars in just 30 years. They had built bombs that could kill millions. They cut down their forests and filled their oceans with trash. "But they are so young," said Counselor Mora. She looked like a giant blue flower with many arms. Her voice was soft like wind through leaves. "They've only just learned to fly between their planets. They cannot even reach the nearest star." "That is exactly why we must act now," Vex replied. He touched a control panel and images appeared in the air above them. Pictures of human cities, human weapons, human wars. Look at what they have done in just 100 years. They went from riding animals to splitting atoms, from throwing rocks to building rockets. The images changed. Now they showed graphs and numbers, red lines going up and up. "Their population grows too fast," Vex continued. "Their technology grows faster. In 50 years, maybe less, they will have ships that can travel faster than light. Then they will spread to other worlds like a disease." Counselor Thane made a rumbling sound deep in his throat. He was the biggest being in the room, covered in thick gray skin like rock. His people were warriors who had conquered half their galaxy arm before joining the council. "The humans fight well," Thane said. "I have watched their battles. They do not give up, even when they should. Even when it would be smart to surrender. All the more reason to stop them," Vex said. "A peaceful species we could guide and teach. But the humans? They will see us as enemies to fight or resources to take." The council leader was an ancient being called Prime Aldous. No one knew exactly what he looked like because he never left his life support chamber. Only his voice came through the speakers, old and tired but still wise. "Show us their current military strength," Prime Aldous commanded. New images appeared. Human spaceships that looked like metal cans with fire coming out the back. Weapons that shot metal bullets. Nuclear missiles that moved slower than a child could run. "Primitive," said Counselor Yira. She was from a water world and had to wear a suit filled with liquid to survive in the air. "We could destroy their entire fleet with one of our patrol boats. Their ships cannot even reach 10% of light speed," added Vex. "They use chemical rockets like children playing with fireworks. Their computers are barely smarter than rocks." But Counselor Mora still looked worried. "Something feels wrong about this. The humans survived on a dangerous world. They had to fight ice ages, diseases, and predators bigger than them. Species like that often have hidden strengths." Thane laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Hidden strengths? Look at them. They cannot even work together long enough to clean their own planet. Half their countries still fight the other half over lines drawn on maps." Vex pulled up more data. "Our behavioral experts have studied them for decades. Humans are tribal creatures. They can only cooperate in small groups of maybe 100 individuals. Any larger, and they start fighting among themselves. This is why they have hundreds of different nations instead of one world government. The Hegemony Third Fleet has just finished bringing order to the Tau Ceti system," said Prime Aldous. Admiral Kethver requests new targets for his ships. Earth seems suitable for their next mission. The vote was simple. Each council member had a crystal that would glow green for yes or red for no. They had used this system for 10,000 years to make decisions that affected trillions of lives. One by one, the crystals began to glow. Green. Green. Vex smiled as his crystal turned green. The humans will be relocated to farming worlds where they can work the land. Their violent nature will be bred out of them in a few generations. Even Mora finally made her crystal glow green, though she still looked sad. Perhaps it is for the best. The galaxy has had enough war. The final count was 847 votes for invasion, 0 votes against. It was unanimous, as most council decisions were. Admiral Kethver will receive his orders within the day, said Prime Aldous. Earth will become the 4,847th world to join our peaceful galactic family, far away in another part of the galaxy. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was a proud member of the warrior race that served as the Council's military arm. His skin was dark red, and his body was covered in scars from 100 battles. Another primitive world to pacify, he said to his second-in-command. The humans should surrender once they see our ships. They always do. Behind him, screens showed the Third Fleet, 300 warships that could move faster than light and destroy planets. Each ship carried weapons that could glass entire continents and shields that could stop nuclear explosions. How long until we reach their system? Kethver asked. 2 standard days at maximum speed, Admiral. The humans will not even see us coming until we drop out of hyperspace. Kethver nodded. It would be another easy victory. Another world brought into the Council's peace. In his long career, he had never met a primitive species that could resist the hegemony's might. But deep in Earth's solar system, something was already moving. Ships that should not exist were leaving hidden bases. Messages were being sent to every human settlement from Earth's moon to the asteroid belt. And in secret bunkers, buried miles underground, humans were making final preparations for a war they had been planning for longer than the aliens could imagine. The Council had made their decision based on what they could see, but they had never learned the most important thing about humans. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one that looks weakest. Asterisk. The hegemony Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like hunters entering a forest. Admiral Kethver expected to see a few hundred primitive ships defending their homeworld. Instead, his sensors lit up with contacts everywhere. Report, Kethver ordered from his command chair. Admiral, we're detecting over 3,000 human vessels throughout the system, his sensor officer said. The young alien's voice shook slightly. They're not just around Earth. They're scattered from the inner planets all the way out to the ice worlds. Kethver frowned. His intelligence report said the humans barely had 50 combat-capable ships. Are you sure these are military vessels? Most appear to be converted civilian ships, sir. Cargo haulers with weapons bolted on. Mining ships fitted with missile launchers. Even passenger liners carrying fighter craft. The Admiral relaxed. Desperate civilians playing soldier. He had seen it before on other worlds. Begin standard pacification protocols. Target their largest concentrations first. The first battle began near Jupiter's largest moon. A group of human ships had taken position behind the rocky satellite, using it as cover. They were pathetic things compared to hegemony vessels. Metal boxes with chemical engines and primitive armor that would barely stop a child's toy gun. Battle. Group 7 moved in to destroy them. 12 hegemony cruisers against 30 human ships. The outcome should have been decided in minutes. The humans opened fire first. Their weapons were laughably weak. Kinetic shells that bounced harmlessly off hegemony shields. Nuclear missiles that moved so slowly the point defense systems had time to target each one individually. Is this supposed to be a fight? Commander Zelt asked from the bridge of the cruiser Righteous Fury. Their weapons couldn't hurt us if we turned off our shields. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of retreating when their weapons failed to penetrate hegemony defenses, the humans charged forward. Their ships accelerated to ramming speed, aiming directly for the alien vessels. "Sir, multiple human ships on collision course," reported the tactical officer. "They're not breaking off." "Then destroy them," Zelt ordered. The hegemony ships opened fire with their main weapons. Plasma beams that could melt asteroids tore through human hulls like paper. Ship after ship exploded in brilliant flashes of light. But the humans kept coming. The first ramming happened so fast that Zelt barely had time to react. A human cargo ship, its hull already burning from plasma damage, slammed into the Righteous Fury's port side. The impact shouldn't have done serious damage to a hegemony cruiser. But as the human ship died, something exploded inside it. "Hull breach on decks 5 through 7, the damage control officer reported. "Sir, that wasn't just a collision. They had some kind of bomb aboard. More human ships were coming. Each one carried the same deadly cargo. When they couldn't win with weapons, they turned themselves into weapons. All ships, evasive action," Zelt commanded. But it was hard to dodge ramming attacks when the enemy didn't care if they died in the process. By the time the battle ended, Battle Group 7 had destroyed every human ship. But they had lost 2 cruisers and 3 destroyers to ramming attacks. 5 hegemony ships destroyed by 30 primitive vessels that should have been scrap metal. Admiral Kethver studied the battle reports with growing concern. Similar fights were happening throughout the system. The humans were losing every engagement, but they were making the aliens pay a price that no one had expected. "Sir, we're intercepting human communications," his intelligence officer reported. "They're coordinating across the entire system. Ships from Earth are working with ships from Mars. Asteroid miners are sharing targeting data with military units." This was impossible. According to Council intelligence, humans could barely cooperate within their own species, let alone across different groups and factions. "Show me," Kethver ordered. The communication channels appeared on his screen. Hundreds of voices speaking in dozens of different languages, but somehow working together perfectly. A mining foreman from the asteroid belt was directing Earth naval forces to weak points in hegemony formations. A cargo pilot from Mars was sharing sensor data with military commanders she had never met. "How are they doing this?" Kethver asked. "Our experts said human tribal instincts made large-scale cooperation impossible." "Unknown, sir. But they seem to have put aside all their differences to focus on us." The battles continued as the fleet moved deeper into the system. Each engagement followed the same pattern. The humans would fight with conventional weapons until those failed, then resort to ramming attacks and suicide bombers. They never surrendered. They never retreated unless ordered to fall back to better defensive positions. Most disturbing was how quickly they learned. In the first battle, human ships had approached in straight lines, making them easy targets. By the 5th battle, they were using complex attack patterns that forced hegemony ships to waste ammunition on false targets. "They're adapting our own tactics," reported Commander Yish from Battle Group 3. That last formation they used was based on the Kandari spiral, but modified for their slower ships. How could they possibly know hegemony military tactics? Kethver demanded. "Sir, we're detecting some unusual technology on the human ships we've destroyed," the science officer said. "They appear to have reverse-engineered some of our equipment." "Impossible. We've had no contact with this species before today." "The evidence suggests otherwise, Admiral." Some of these human ships are carrying weapons based on hegemony plasma technology. Crude copies, but functional. Kethfer felt a chill run down his spine. If the humans had captured hegemony technology before this invasion, it meant they had been preparing for war longer than anyone realized. The fleet reached Mars orbit after 6 days of fighting. They had destroyed over 1,000 human ships and lost only 30 of their own. By any normal measure, it was a crushing victory. But Kethfer no longer felt victorious. "Casualty reports, sir," his aide said quietly. "We've lost 12,000 crew members. Most ships are reporting critical damage to at least one system. And the humans? Estimated 50,000 dead, sir. But their ships keep coming. We're detecting new vessels launching from hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt." Kethfer stared at the tactical display showing the red dots of human ships surrounding his fleet. There were fewer of them now, but they seemed more organized. More dangerous than before. "Sir, incoming message from the human fleet," the communications officer announced. "Put it through." A human face appeared on the screen. It was an older male with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore some kind of military uniform that looked primitive compared to hegemony gear. "I am Admiral Chun of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said. "You have invaded our home and killed our people. We offer you one chance to withdraw from our system." Kethfer almost laughed. This primitive creature was trying to negotiate from a position of weakness. "Your forces are defeated," Kethfer replied. "Surrender now, and your people will be relocated to suitable worlds where they can live in peace." The human's expression didn't change. "You misunderstand our position. We're not asking you to leave because we're afraid of losing. We're asking you to leave because we're afraid of what will become if this war continues." The transmission ended, leaving Kethfer staring at a blank screen. What had the human meant by that? His answer came 3 hours later, when the real battle for Mars began. The humans had been holding back their best ships, their most skilled crews, their most advanced weapons. Everything they had shown so far had been a test, a way to learn hegemony capabilities. Now the dying began in earnest. Earth looked dead from space. The blue and green world that humans called home was now covered in smoke and fire. Hegemony bombardment had turned major cities into burning ruins. Military bases had been reduced to glass craters. The orbital defense platforms hung broken and silent around the planet. Admiral Kethfer watched the destruction from his flagship's bridge and felt no satisfaction. The space battles had cost him nearly half his fleet. The humans had fought with a fury that defied all logic, turning every engagement into a bloodbath that hurt both sides. "Begin ground operations," he ordered. "Send the first wave to secure the major population centers." "Sir, our scans show most human cities are abandoned," reported his intelligence officer. "The population appears to have moved underground." "Then we'll dig them out," Kethfer said. "How hard can it be to root out a few million primitives hiding in caves?" The first hegemony ground forces landed in what had been London. The ancient human city was a wasteland of collapsed buildings and burning vehicles. But as the alien troops advanced through the streets, they found something unexpected. The entire city had been turned into a maze. Every street was blocked by carefully placed rubble. Every intersection was a bottleneck. And from the shadows came death. "Contact, contact," screamed Sergeant Vox into his radio as his patrol came under fire. Human fighters in the subway tunnels. The attack came from everywhere at once. Human soldiers popped up from manholes, fired from building windows, and disappeared back into the underground before the aliens could react. They used weapons that should have been useless against hegemony armor, but somehow they were making them work. "How are their bullets penetrating our battlesuits?" Vox demanded as another of his soldiers fell. "Unknown, sir. Analysis shows they've modified their ammunition with some kind of exotic matter." The humans weren't just hiding underground. They have spent months, maybe years, preparing their cities for exactly this kind of invasion. Every subway tunnel was a fortress. Every sewer pipe was a hidden highway. Every basement had been turned into a weapons cache or command bunker. But what truly shocked the hegemony forces was the human willingness to destroy their own world. When alien troops occupied a power plant, the humans detonated it rather than let the invaders use it. When they took control of a water treatment facility, the humans poisoned the entire supply rather than let the aliens have clean water. Sir, the humans just collapsed 3 city blocks to stop our advance, reported Major Krell from his position in what had been New York. They buried 50 of our soldiers and about 1,000 of their own civilians. Their own people were still in those buildings? Keffer asked in shock. Yes, sir. Men, women, children. They killed them all, rather than let us capture them. This was madness. No civilized species would sacrifice their own people like this. The humans were supposed to be protecting these cities, not destroying them. The pattern repeated across the planet. In Tokyo, human defenders had turned the subway system into an underground battleground that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Alien forces could control the surface, but below ground, the humans ruled supreme. In Moscow, the entire city center had been rigged with explosives. When hegemony forces tried to establish a command post in the Kremlin, the humans brought down the entire complex rather than lose it to invaders. In Cairo, the humans had flooded the underground tunnels with poisonous gas that couldn't hurt them in their sealed suits but would kill any alien who tried to follow. What's our casualty count? Keffer asked after the first week of ground fighting. 200,000 dead or wounded, sir, his aide replied quietly. The humans have lost an estimated 5 million, but they're not slowing down. 5 million? How many more can they sacrifice? Sir, our best estimate is that they moved about 2 billion people into underground shelters before we arrived. At this rate, they can keep fighting for years. Years. Keffer had never fought a campaign that lasted more than a few months. Most species surrendered once they realized resistance was hopeless. But the humans seemed to think that hopeless was just another word for challenging. The reports from his field commanders grew more disturbing each day. Human children, barely old enough to walk, were carrying explosive devices. Elderly humans too weak to fight were serving as spotters and messengers. Even their wounded were dangerous, booby-trapping their own medical facilities. Sir, we've discovered something in the Paris underground, reported Carl Dex. The humans have built what appears to be an entire city beneath the original one. Factories, farms, living quarters, everything they need to survive for decades. How is that possible? When did they build it? Based on the construction, sir, they've been working on this for at least 20 years. Maybe longer. This wasn't a desperate last-minute effort. This was planned. 20 years. The humans had been preparing for this war since before the Council had even decided to invade. How could they have known? The answer came from an unexpected source. While exploring a destroyed military base, hegemony engineers found something that made Admiral Keffer's blood run cold. Hidden in a bunker 50 meters underground was a room filled with alien technology. Hegemony scanners, weapons, communication devices, even a small hyperspace engine. Where did they get this? He demanded. Unknown, sir. But analysis shows this equipment has been here for decades. The humans have been studying our technology and building countermeasures. That's impossible. We've never made contact with this species before. Sir, I think we have. Remember the probe we lost in this system 15 years ago? And the scout ship that went missing near their outer planets? We assumed they were destroyed by asteroids or equipment failures. Keffer felt sick. The humans had been capturing hegemony technology for years, studying it, learning from it. The invasion wasn't a surprise to them. They had been expecting it. "Sir, incoming message from the Council," his communications officer announced. "They're demanding an update on the pacification schedule." Ketver stared at the communication panel. How could he explain that his mighty fleet was being bled dry by a species that fought with poisoned water and exploding children? How could he tell the Council that the humans had turned their entire planet into a weapon? "Tell them the operation is proceeding as planned," he said finally. But privately, he was beginning to wonder if the humans could be defeated at all. Every day brought new horrors, new tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. The aliens had weapons that could destroy planets. But the humans had something more dangerous: the absolute refusal to accept defeat. Deep underground, in a bunker buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, human leaders were meeting in secret. They had lost millions of people, seen their cities burned and their world scarred. But they had also learned something valuable about their enemies. The aliens were powerful, but they fought by rules. They tried to minimize their own casualties. They expected their enemies to eventually surrender. They had never faced an opponent willing to turn victory into a funeral pyre for everyone involved. "Phase 1 is complete," said General Harrison, a woman whose hair had turned completely white in the past month. "The alien fleet is exactly where we want them." "Casualties?" asked President Martinez. "Unacceptable, but necessary. We always knew the price would be high." "And Phase 2? General Harrison smiled for the first time since the invasion began. "Phase 2 begins tomorrow. The aliens think they're fighting a desperate defense. They have no idea they're walking into the largest trap in human history." Above ground, hegemony forces continued their bloody advance through the ruins of human civilization. They thought they were winning. They had no idea that everything, from the first space battle to the underground resistance, had been carefully planned to bring them to this exact moment. The humans hadn't been trying to stop the invasion. They had been trying to make sure every alien ship, every alien soldier, every piece of alien technology was exactly where they needed it to be. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn why the most dangerous predator is sometimes the one that looks like prey. The trap began to spring at exactly 1432. Earth Standard Time. Admiral Ketver was reviewing casualty reports when his chief engineer burst onto the bridge without permission. Commander Yill was normally calm and professional, but now his scales were pale with fear. "Admiral, we have a critical problem with our quantum communication array," Yill said breathlessly. "The humans have been accessing our network." "That's impossible," Ketver replied. "Human technology is centuries behind ours. They don't even understand quantum mechanics." "Sir, they've been inside our systems for weeks, maybe months. Every time we captured one of their ships, every piece of wreckage we brought aboard for study, it was all infected with some kind of quantum virus." Ketver felt his heart stop beating. "Explain." Yill pulled up a holographic display showing the fleet's communication network. Red warning lights were blinking everywhere. The humans embedded microscopic quantum resonance devices in everything. Every damaged ship we recovered. Every piece of technology we salvaged from their destroyed vessels. Even the metal fragments from their suicide attacks. "What do these devices do?" "They create quantum entanglement pairs, sir. Linked particles that respond instantly to each other across any distance. The humans have been using our own salvage operations to plant bombs inside our ships." The implications hit Ketver like a physical blow. Every ramming attack, every desperate last stand, every piece of wreckage his ships had recovered had been part of a massive trap. The humans hadn't been losing those battles. They had been planting weapons. "Can we remove them?" "No, sir. They're integrated into our ship systems at the quantum level. The only way to remove them would be to dismantle every piece of technology on every ship in the fleet. How long before they activate? Yale's answer was interrupted by alarms throughout the ship. Emergency lights began flashing as the ship's computer announced a quantum cascade failure. Sir, we're detecting the same quantum signature from the human satellite network, the sensor officer reported. They're activating something. On Earth's surface, in a bunker buried 3 kilometers beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Sarah Chun placed her hand on a simple red button. Around her, dozens of human scientists and military officers watched in silence. They had worked for 20 years for this moment. All stations report ready, announced General Harrison from her command. Station. Quantum entanglement verified across all targets, reported Dr. Patel from his monitoring station. We have lock on the entire fleet. Dr. Chun looked at the button that would change the course of galactic history. 20 years ago, when they first detected alien technology in their solar system, humanity had faced a choice. They could try to make contact and hope the aliens were peaceful, or they could assume the worst and prepare for war. They had chosen to prepare. For everyone we've lost, Dr. Chen said quietly. For everyone we couldn't save. She pushed the button. The quantum cascade began instantly. Every hegemony ship in the fleet contained thousands of microscopic quantum devices that had been planted during months of apparent defeats. Now, those devices activated simultaneously, creating a chain reaction that turned the aliens' own technology into a weapon. On the bridge of Kethver's flagship, control panels began exploding. The ship's fusion reactor started fluctuating wildly as quantum interference disrupted the magnetic containment fields. Emergency systems failed one by one as the cascade spread through every circuit and component. Hull breach on all decks, reported the damage control officer. Sir, it's like the ship is tearing itself apart from the inside. Emergency evacuation, Kethver ordered. All hands to escape pods. But there were no escape pods. The quantum cascade had destroyed the launch systems along with everything else. Across the fleet, 300 hegemony ships were dying simultaneously. Their own technology turned against them by an enemy they had thought was primitive. Kethver grabbed his communications officer by the arm. Send a message to the council. Tell them the humans are not what they seem. Tell them to stay away from this system. Sir, communications are down. The quantum cascade destroyed all our transmitters. The admiral looked around his dying ship and realized the truth. The humans hadn't just planned to defend their world. They had planned to make sure no alien force could ever threaten them again. But the trap was bigger than even Kethver realized. The quantum devices weren't just on his fleet. Every hegemony probe, every scout ship, every piece of technology that had ever entered the Sol system over the past 20 years had been infected with the same quantum virus through the miracle of quantum entanglement. The destruction was spreading instantly across space to every hegemony base, shipyard, and colony. Thousands of light years away, space stations were exploding. Planetary defense networks were failing. The entire hegemony war machine was collapsing in minutes. In the council chambers, emergency alarms were screaming. The crystal hall that had floated peacefully around its neutron star for millennia was now filled with panic as reports poured in from across the galaxy. The entire hegemony Third Fleet has gone. Silent, reported Counselor Vex, his silver skin now dull with shock. Not just the fleet, said Prime Aldous. We're receiving emergency transmissions from hegemony worlds throughout the galaxy. Their technology is failing everywhere at once. Counselor Mora spoke in a voice like wind through dying leaves. How is this possible? The humans are a primitive species. They don't have faster than light travel. They don't need it, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Counselor Thane standing at his full height, his rock-like skin now showing cracks of fear. As the only warrior among them, he understood what the others could not. "The humans have been planning this for decades," he said slowly. "Every time we sent a probe to their system, every time a hegemony ship went missing near their territory, they were learning about us, studying our technology, building weapons we couldn't imagine." "Quantum entanglement," said Counselor Yira from her water-filled suit. "They've weaponized quantum mechanics itself. The destruction can spread instantly across any distance." Prime Aldis's voice came through the speakers, older and more tired than anyone had ever heard it. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the humans just declared war on the entire galaxy," Thane replied. "And they won the first battle without leaving their home system." Back on Earth, the quantum cascade was finally ending. In orbit around the planet, 300 hegemony warships floated dead in space. Their hulls were intact, but inside, every piece of technology had been destroyed by the quantum cascade. The ships had become tombs, filled with the bodies of aliens who had come to conquer a primitive world and instead discovered they were facing something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. In the underground bunker, General Harrison received reports from monitoring stations around the world. All alien ground forces have lost contact with their ships. Their equipment is failing. We're detecting massive power failures across their positions. Dr. Chun looked at the data streaming across her screens. The quantum cascade had worked even better than they had hoped. Not only had they destroyed the invasion fleet, they had crippled the entire hegemony war machine. "Phase 3? Asked President Martinez. General Harrison nodded. "Launch the reserve fleets. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can do when we're not pretending to be weak." Hidden bases throughout the outer solar system began opening. Ships that the aliens had never detected started emerging from asteroid fields and ice worlds. These weren't the converted cargo haulers and civilian vessels the humans had used as bait. These were purpose-built warships, incorporating 20 years of reverse-engineered alien technology. Admiral Kethvar, dying on his shattered bridge, watched through his ship's sensors as the human vessels approached. They moved with the grace of hegemony ships, but fought with the ruthlessness that only humans possessed. His last transmission was sent on an emergency frequency that might reach the council chambers. 3 words that would echo through galactic history. They were ready. The invasion was over. The war was just beginning. The silence in the council chambers was absolute. For the first time in 10,000 years of galactic civilization, no one knew what to say. The reports kept coming in, each one worse than the last. The hegemony homeworld was dark, its orbital shipyards destroyed by the quantum cascade. Military bases across 50 star systems had gone silent. The galaxy's most powerful military force had simply ceased to exist in a matter of minutes, and it had all been done by a species that the Council had dismissed as primitive savages. Damage assessment. Prime Aldis commanded, his ancient voice now barely more than a whisper. "Counselor Vex." His silver skin now dull with shock, red from the reports streaming in. "The entire hegemony military apparatus is gone. Every ship, every base, every weapons platform that contained quantum technology has been destroyed. Only their agricultural colonies and low-tech outposts survived." "How many dead?" asked Councilor Mora. "Conservative estimates suggest 50 billion hegemony citizens killed in the cascade. Their military personnel, support staff, civilian workers at military installations." The number hung in the air like a death sentence. 50 billion lives, ended in minutes by creatures the Council had thought were barely civilized. "There's more," Vex continued reluctantly. "We're detecting human ships throughout their solar system. Not the primitive vessels we observed before. These appear to be advanced warships using technology we don't recognize. On the main display, images appeared of sleek human vessels moving through the wreckage of the hegemony fleet. They were beautiful and terrible, combining alien engineering with human innovation in ways that should have been impossible. They've been preparing for this war for decades, said Councillor Thane. His warriors' instincts had recognized the truth before anyone else. While we thought they were a young species just learning to travel between planets, they were actually building a war machine designed to destroy galactic civilization. Incoming transmission, announced the communication system. The council members looked at each other nervously. No one outside their chambers should have been able to reach them. The council's communication array was protected by quantum encryption that no primitive species could break. Source? Asked Prime Aldous. Sol system, sir. It appears to be coming from the human homeworld. A human face appeared on the screen. It was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and tired eyes, wearing a simple military uniform. Behind her, they could see other humans working at advanced control stations. I am General Harrison, speaking for the United Earth government, the woman said calmly. I believe you know why I'm calling. Councillor Vex found his voice first. You've committed genocide against the hegemony. Billions of innocent people are dead because of your actions. General Harrison's expression didn't change. The hegemony committed genocide against my species when they decided we were too dangerous to exist. We simply finished what you started. We were going to relocate your people to safe worlds where you could live in peace, protested Councillor Mora. Against our will, after destroying our military and occupying our planet. That's not relocation, Councillor. That's slavery with extra steps. The human's words hit like physical blows. Every council member knew she was right, but none of them wanted to admit it. What do you want? Asked Prime Aldous. The same thing we've always wanted, Harrison replied. To be left alone. Earth and our solar system are now off-limits to all alien contact. Any ship that enters our territory will be destroyed without warning. You can't make demands of the galactic community, Vex said angrily. We have laws, treaties, civilized protocols for contact between species. Harrison smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Your laws didn't stop you from voting to invade our world. Your treaties didn't protect us from an unprovoked attack. And your civilized protocols included the complete destruction of human civilization. The council voted for relocation, not destruction, Mara said desperately. The vote was for invasion. Everything that followed was just details. Harrison's voice was cold as space. You made your choice when you decided we were too dangerous to exist as a free species. We've simply proven you were right to be afraid. The transmission showed new images. Human ships moving through space at impossible speeds, using technology that shouldn't have existed. More disturbing were the readings that came with the images. The human vessels were giving off quantum signatures that hurt to look at. Reality-bending fields that made normal space appear fragile around them. How long have you been planning this? Asked Thane. Since the day we detected your first probe in our system, Harrison answered honestly. We knew that any species capable of faster-than-light travel would eventually see us as either slaves or threats. We decided to make sure we could handle being treated as threats. You've destroyed the galactic balance of power, Prime Aldous said. Without the hegemony military, there will be chaos. Wars between species, territorial disputes, the collapse of peaceful trade. That's not our problem, Harrison replied. You created a galaxy where might makes right, where peaceful species get conquered and absorbed into your galactic community, whether they want to be or not. We're just the first species strong enough to say no. What happens now? Asked Mora. Now you leave us alone. You tell every species in the galaxy that Earth is forbidden's territory. You make sure that no alien government ever again decides that humanity needs to be managed or controlled or relocated for the greater good. And if we refuse? Asked Vex. Harrison's smile became even colder. Then you'll discover that the quantum cascade was just a demonstration. We have weapons you can't imagine and the will to use them. The galaxy spent 10,000 years believing that cooperation was the only way to survive among the stars. We're here to prove that sometimes fear works better. The transmission ended, leaving the council members staring at a blank screen. Outside their crystal chambers, reports continued to pour in of hegemony worlds going dark and human ships appearing in empty space where they had no right to be. We have to do something, Vex said finally. We can't let one primitive species hold the galaxy hostage. Can't we? Asked Thane. Look around you, Vex. The humans just destroyed our military with technology we don't understand. They've been planning this war longer than some of our species have had spaceflight. What exactly do you think we can do to stop them? We could unite the other species. Build a new military force to contain the human threat. With what? Thane laughed bitterly. Half the galaxy's military forces used hegemony technology. The quantum cascade probably crippled every major fleet in Council space. And even if we could build new ships, what makes you think the humans don't have other surprises waiting for us? The truth was setting in. The galaxy's balance of power hadn't just shifted, it had been completely overturned. For 10 millennia, the Council had maintained peace through superior firepower and the threat of hegemony intervention. Now that threat was gone, and in its place was something far worse. Species that had turned their apparent weakness into the deadliest weapon the galaxy had ever seen. On Earth. In the underground bunkers that had saved humanity from extinction, people were finally coming up to see the sun again. The battle was over. The invasion had been turned back. But the war for humanity's future had just begun. President Martinez stood in the ruins of what had been Washington, D.C., looking up at the alien ships hanging dead in orbit. How long before they come back? They won't, said General Harrison, joining him in the rubble. Not the Council, anyway. They're too scared now. But there will be others. Species that didn't depend on hegemony technology. Civilizations that see us as either a threat to eliminate or a weapon to capture. Are we ready for them? Harrison smiled and gestured toward the sky, where human ships were already moving toward the edge of the solar system. Not to escape, but to explore. To claim territory. To make sure that humanity would never again be trapped on a single world waiting for aliens to decide their fate. General, we've been ready for 20 years. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for us. In the darkness between stars, human vessels moved like ghosts, invisible to alien sensors, armed with weapons that could remake reality itself. They carried a simple message for any species that might threaten Earth. We are here. We are strong. And we remember what you tried to do to us. The Council had approved Earth's invasion to eliminate a potential threat. Instead, they had awakened the greatest predator the galaxy had ever seen. A species that had learned the most important lesson in the universe. Sometimes, the best way to ensure peace is to make war too terrible to contemplate. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, humanity was making sure it never would be. The tune they had promised to turn Earth into had indeed been built. But it wasn't humanity that lay buried inside it. It was the old galactic order, the comfortable assumption that advanced civilizations were automatically peaceful civilizations, and the belief that might always makes right. Humanity had shown the galaxy a new truth. Sometimes, the most dangerous species is the one that refuses to die quietly.